News presentation.
Good morning and welcome to A View from the House, our parliamentary news program that keeps you up to speed with developments in the two houses of parliament and the committee rooms of legislators. My name is Asanda Mbeche. In our program yesterday, we brought you extracts from a debate that MPs had in the National Assembly celebrating International Women's Day. In our lineup this morning, we stay with issues affecting women and children. Members of Parliament in the National Council of Provinces held a debate with the statement tabled by the Deputy Minister of Education, Mr. Enver Serti, under the theme, Working Together to Stop Rape and Sexual Violence in Our Communities. We'll also bring you the last round of questions to Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe in the National Assembly. And later in our program, we'll bring you member statements standing over from last week. Let's go to our first item. Earlier last week, the National Assembly celebrated International Women's Day with a debate highlighting the plight of women. Members of Parliament in the National Council of Provinces also set aside some time to focus on issues affecting women and children, with the debate led by the Deputy Minister of Basic Education, Mr. Enver Serti, outlining some of the steps taken by his department in the fight against rape and sexual violence amongst learners. The debate follows a campaign launched by President Jacob Zuma to stop rape and a pledge taken by learners across the country to work together to stop rape and sexual violence in communities.
The department had long recognized the importance of responsibilities. It had adopted and distributed and disseminated a bill of responsibilities in terms whereof learners' attention was drawn to the rights enshrined in the Constitution and the reciprocal responsibilities that they had. The department had also initiated a girls' education movement as well as a boys' education movement in terms whereof the issues of sexual harassment, sexual violence, rape itself was addressed and discussed in an atmosphere where, amongst peers, where boy learners, for example, would take the responsibility of becoming the protectors and custodians of the girl learners, and that they recognize the responsibility of ensuring that in order to affirm the dignity of both themselves as well as the girl learners, they had this particular responsibility. The department had produced many books, and I'll just show some of them. This is building a culture of responsibility and humanity in our schools so that we create a caring and humane society, and this was done in partnership with Lead South Africa. We have a wonderful publication called Values in Action. This is an old publication which has been disseminated to all our schools so that people can understand the values, particularly the values of being gender sensitive, recognizing the importance of creating a society that's equal, abolishing any attempt at patriarchy and the assertion of power quite falsely and illegitimately.
The chairperson of Community Development in the Western Cape, Ms. Andrew Murray, supported the campaign against sexual abuse of women. She also called on educators to be sensitive and protective when they receive reports of abuse and sexual violence amongst learners.
The launch of the Stop Rape campaign by President Zuma is but one attempt to address this evil in society. This campaign encouraged learners to report any form of abuse from anyone to authorities. As indicated, a rape response booklet and poster will accompany the campaign and the pledge to assist and guide educators on how to deal with and cope with this sensitive topic. Educators must be extremely sensitive and protective when dealing with such reports. The confidentiality of the learner must be protected at all times, and the way in which a report is handled and handed over to the authorities like the police also calls for extreme sensitivity, understanding, protection and caution. It is not just good enough to have a campaign and pledge in place. More needs to be done in order to ensure that perpetrators are prosecuted quickly but correctly, and that enough assistance and support will be given to the victims to rebuild and re-establish their lives again. The difficult truth, there is no quick fix to this problem. Politicians and political parties must also play their part in addressing this issue, as they are part of the solution to keep discussions and policies and mandates in check in order for the issue to constantly keep being addressed.
Co-member of Parliament in the NCOP, Dennis Bloem, called on government to review legislation that allows those accused of rape to have legal representation in court.
On Saturday, a 29-year-old man was arrested in Limpopo for raping a 2-year-old child, 2-year-old baby. 2 weeks ago, he raped her and left her in the bush in the hope that she will die. Why must taxpayers' money pay a lawyer for this heartless, cruel monster? Not even an animal is so cruel to leave a 2-year-old baby in the bush. I am saying, let us review this law and stop making lawyers and advocates available for these rapists. They must rot in jail. They can't do this to this beautiful country. Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Oliver Tambo have never struggled so that we must have this type of thing going on in this country. We as members of parliament, men and women, must stand up and say enough is enough.
The Mpumalanga ANC representative in the NCOP, Patrick Sibande, called on the government to ensure maximum security on school premises. He also called on government to abolish traditional forced marriages.
I request that communities must report or to blow the whistle about other forms of rape as statutory rape. I'll put an example. Kwezamasiko, umntwana, we must make sure that amasiko okthwala and eMpumalanga, which is known as Fulelanganeno, must be abolished. Because some of these things are still going on and it's not reported. And our traditional leaders must play a role in that regard, because this thing is combination. I believe that working together we can do more.
It is important for us to bring morality back to our people. And here, I see people put it in the hands of the government. It's not the duty of the government for the morality of the society. It's the duty of the church. And every parent in South Africa must play his or her role to protect the children. Everyone must stand up so to see that our children are being protected, that our children are being looked after. It is not good for a man to stand up and rape a woman or abuse a woman or abuse a child. That doesn't make you a man, and you can't be counted as one of us. You are a man when you can sit there and look and appreciate the beauty.
Campaign engene kuyona kube icampaign emukulwa wonke inhlelo zabantu abakhona emphakathini bekwazi ukusebenzisana nani njengomnyango ukuba zigcinwe zibanjiwe izigebengu ehlasela ukudlungula abantu besifazana. Akuwona umkhuba lo esingawukhomba kwezinye izifundazwe kuphela, kusithi into eyenzeka ezweni lonke. Ngoba sokhomba ngenjumbane izifundazwe ezithile, akuyona into engathi sisize leyo. Bese ngithi kumhlonishwa Sibanda lapha kwelikamthaniya asithwali siyeshela. Asithwali siyeshela. Khona kumhluko phakathi kokuthwala nokweshela. Nezinye izinto eziningi ezingahle zenzeke akukhona ukuthi lokhu kudalwa abantu abathwalile. Akukho ukuthwala emlazi ngoba ingane bayidikadike ngomphambili baze bayibulala. Akukhona ukuthwala lokho. Ukonakala kobugebengu ofuna iqiniso zokuphepha ezweni lakithi nesikole uqobula basic education must combine ihlangane Department of Justice uliwe nesigebengu kwaze ukuthi igebengu zigcine zibanjiwe.
We are committed to wage all battles to put an end to these horrific acts in our communities. We shall continue to make a clarion call to all agencies of government that are tasked with protecting women and children to fight fire with fire by giving them long sentences with no parole. We want to say anyone who dare touches a woman or show no regard of the safety and bodily integrity of our mothers, sisters, aunts and children and grandmothers, you have no place in our society. We remain resilient in our formidable fight to ensure that abusers, murderers, and rapists are removed from our society. We shall use this campaign to travel the length and depth of our country and knock on every door to spread this message.
I understand the emotion of Honorable Bloom. I feel just the way you do in relation to that. But as we do that, we must be mindful of the constitutional rights, the presumption of innocence, and so forth. But where I certainly agree is that any legal representative, being an advocate or an attorney, cannot basically seek to defend where a person who has committed a crime where the person has confessed the crime. I mean, that would be unethical and unprofessional, because they are indeed officers of the court and they have that particular ethical and moral responsibility to ensure that they do not become part of the perpetration of that particularly heinous crime. I think I'd like to thank the Honorable Sibanda for his contribution, but I think perhaps the Honorable Zulu has provided the distinction between abduction and proposal, to say that as we look at the concept of uthwalwa, we must do so from the fact that you must be able to distinguish between abduction that is unlawful, that is without the consent of the person, and a proposal that takes place in its normal traditional form. And certainly as a government, and as a democratic government in particular, we certainly would not condone abduction in any form, particularly when it involves our minor children.
Well, it's time for a break. When we return, we'll look at more questions to Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe in the National Assembly. Stay tuned.